great start. Dr. Lally, Mr. Owen, Board of Education members. My name is Roger Hardin. I'm the Assistant Director of the Office of Finance Program Services for the Ohio Department of Education. I have to say the, anytime you're from Columbus, you learn that real quick. So we're here this evening. Appreciate you allowing us to come down and talk to you a little bit. Unfortunately, we're here with not a real good message. I do want to introduce my fiscal consultant here with us, Mr. Dean Horton. And about a month ago, we received a call that there were some questions about your finances. So as our strict protocol, or usual protocol, we first come in and do a financial analysis of the district to kind of give us an idea about where you really are and what your forecast is showing. So I want to go through that financial analysis that we've done on your behalf. Talk just a little bit about percentages that you might hear me talking about. Anytime that we have deficits, we're talking about your end of the year balance divided into your revenue stream. So if you have, for example, a $10 million revenue stream, and if you have a $200,000 deficit, that would be a 2% deficit, negative. And that is what I use as a threshold, more or less, as far as declaring fiscal caution. Anytime a district is showing a 2% negative balance, if you get into the 6 to 8% range of a deficit, that is pretty much where the auditor state will want to declare a fiscal watch. Now, by statute, if you get into a 15% deficit, the district must be declared in fiscal emergency. But if it's within the 10% to 15% range, the auditor state does have a discretionary authority of declaring fiscal emergency at that point. Now, what I like to do now is go through what some of the law requires for districts going into fiscal caution, watch emergency. We call it a fiscal oversight program. And my direct role at ODE is being the administrator of this program on behalf of the department. So I'm the Grim Reaper. I'm the guy that comes into the school districts and gives them sometimes the bad news and has to let you know that your districts want to go into fiscal caution. By the way, I have already written the letter. They've already been sent to your Board of Education, to the superintendent, to your administration. It will become effective. Fiscal caution will become effective for Monroe Local on October 1st. Means I wrote it on September 21st. We usually give them 10 days in case there's some reason, outstanding reason, that the district can show us that warrants or shows where the fiscal caution designation is not warranted. Okay? So I want to talk a little bit about fiscal oversight. A little bit about, first of all, just a little bit about our program itself, Office of Finance Program Services. Our objectives help schools stay advised of and in compliance with state and federal laws. And yes, anything that does come down, through the law, through the auditor state, we will require the school district to comply with that. To restore fiscal solvency of schools placed in oversight. And most importantly, the bottom one is prevention of fiscal emergency. Everything that we do, including tonight's presentation, trying to work with the board, trying to give them some ideas what to do, is geared to prevent fiscal emergency. In our office, we have 12 fiscal consultants. You met Dean Horton. He is one of them and down in this region. And we have 2 of those consultants that serve strictly as commission chairs. Later on in the presentation, you'll figure out what that means. I have 1 that serves strictly as a secretary monitor of those commissions. And then we have 9 people, similar to Dean, that provide direct services to districts from around the state of Ohio, to all 614 school districts. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but a lot of our work begins with the 5-year forecast. That, again, is what brought us out here to the Monroe, because when Mr. Ohm called us one day and said, our forecast, we have some issues with our forecast, we want you to take a look at it. And that's what prompted us to do the financial analysis. That's just a little bit of the work we do. When the forecasts come in, some of the flags that we have, it's not relevant to tonight. Fiscal caution. As I mentioned, as of October 1st, we will currently have 23 districts in caution, because I did the same letter for another district up north of here. So there are 2 new districts going into fiscal caution on October 1, one of them being Monroe Local Schools. And fiscal caution may be declared if the department, that would be us, determined through the forecast If conditions exist, it could result in a future declaration of watch or emergency. And we do see that there are conditions there. If you noticed on the fiscal year 13, the last bottom right-hand side of that, that your deficit next year was about 2.9 million, with maybe a 1.3 million added onto that. If that's the case, it's well over the 15% threshold I was telling you about. It also may be declared if the auditor of state reports any conditions or practices that could result in future declaration. In particular, that is if the auditor finds the books to be unauditable. That is not the case here. Fiscal caution, what happens? The district must submit to my office a written proposal of how they're going to eliminate that deficit. And they're going to have to not only the deficit, but the conditions that led to that declaration of fiscal caution. By the way, the Department of Education has jurisdiction over fiscal caution. If it goes into Fiscal Watch or Fiscal Emergency, the Auditor of State has jurisdiction over that. Also, while you're in fiscal caution, after you give us that written proposal, and you have 60 days to send that in to us, the department will monitor the district to ensure implementation of that proposal. And he'll also check off the numbers again. He has a monitoring report on his computer that will come in and look at all the numbers, and there's a whole list of reports that the treasurer will need to provide so that we can check and make sure your revenue coming in, your expenditures, see where you're at throughout the year, and making sure that you're within following the plan. Because you'll see later on that if you don't follow that plan, that's where Fiscal Watch could be declared. Also, the auditor of state may declare or may conduct a performance audit at no cost to the district. Now, the performance audit will look at 5 different areas if they do the full audit. They'll look at technology, food service, transportation, facilities, and of course the staffing or the HR. So those are the 5 areas they will look at. They will try to determine if they are, for example, if they're overstaffed, or if there are any other areas in those 4 areas in which the district may be able to save some money. So it's all geared towards trying to find some areas or some recommendations, suggestions to the Board of Education in order to save some money. The auditor of state may also place the district in watch, as I mentioned, if you do not give us an acceptable proposal, or if you do not comply with the proposal once it has been approved. Fiscal Watch is not a lot different, not a whole lot different at all from Fiscal Caution. Currently we have 5 districts in Fiscal Watch. Only the auditor of state can declare or terminate watch, and once again the Board of Education must submit a financial recovery plan within 60 days. Failure to submit, update, or implement that plan could result in the auditor of state placing the district now in fiscal emergency. And if you go into Fiscal Watch, then the auditors get involved, and you can imagine there will be some additional work to do for their behalf, and the accounting and reporting compliances issued by the auditor of state must be addressed before termination, and I don't like that word, but that's what's in the law, but before release from fiscal emergency. Then the third category is fiscal emergency, and this is where things change quite a bit. Fiscal emergency, we currently have 8 districts in emergency. Since the beginning of this law was approved in 1996, there have been 36 districts throughout the state of Ohio that have gone into fiscal emergency. 8 of them are in there now, so that means there are 28 that, am I right, teachers? There were 28 that have so far been released. So what that tells me is that the system works that we have set up for fiscal emergency. It does include establishing a financial planning and supervision commission. And I'll say that again, it's a financial planning and supervision commission. I want to make sure that nobody believes that this is the state coming in with a pot of money to help us out commission. It is nothing else other than a financial planning and supervision commission. It does require, fiscal emergency does require the commission to develop and implement their own recovery plan, and everything that the Board of Education approves, every personnel order, every purchase order over $5,000, Once they approve it, it has to come to the commission for their approval. And it also provides the district with access to an advance of their own state foundation monies, known as the Solvency Assistance Fund. Now what I'd like to do now is go through these one at a time and talk a little bit about them. Then hopefully at the end I'll try to wrap this all together, bring it all together, and maybe give you some idea about what you can do to stay out of fiscal emergency. Again, the Financial Planning and Supervision Commission consists of 5 members. 2 of those will be coming from Columbus. One is the State Superintendent of Public Instruction, or his designee. The other will be the Director of the Office of Budget and Management, or his designee. Both of those, I guarantee, will be designees. As a matter of fact, as you saw, I have 2 fiscal consultants that work solely as commission chairs. And that's what their role would be here, that they would be the designee of the state superintendent. The other 3 members of the commission are 3 folks that could be in this room tonight. One is a parent with a child enrolled in the district appointed by the state superintendent. The other 2 are business people who live or work within the district. One is appointed by the governor, one is appointed by the county auditor, or if there is more than 51% living in one municipality, that person would be appointed by the mayor. In this case, your township, I believe. So it would be the county auditor would have that designation. I'm going on your demographics also. Those are the 5 people that would make up the Financial Planning and Supervision Commission. My task is to get this appointed within 15 days of the date of declaration of fiscal emergency. So once the declaration happens, fiscal emergency, things happen pretty quickly. The superintendent or his designee serves as a chairperson. This again is all in statute in 3316.20. The commission shall adopt their own financial recovery plan within 120 days of its first meeting. And once they adopt that plan, every expenditure that your Board of Education makes, and they still have their role of doing the day-to-day operation, but everything that they do then has to be approved by the commission based on the fact if they have money to fulfill that contract. That makes sense? And again, the commission will receive legal representation from the Ohio Attorney General's office and financial information from the Auditor of State. What are some of the powers of the commission? Basically anything that has to do with district finances. They have authority over anything, and they can actually give themselves the authority that they need to do to get the job done. Here we're talking about anything that has to do with their finances. Levy, appropriations, certificates, 5-year forecasts. You've heard that talked about this evening. That again, all of those have to be approved by the commission before they're put into place. The commission may make recommendations and implement cost reductions and revenue increase to achieve the budget. So they can make a recommendation to your board to place levies on the ballot of X number of dollars, or make X number of dollars of reductions, or a combination of both. The commission may implement steps to bring accounting reports and procedures into compliance with the auditor's standards. And again, the auditor, once you go into a fiscal emergency, the auditor will create what they call an accounting methods report. It reviews the district's policies, practices, and procedures, and anything that they find that is below standard or not up to the auditor's standards at the time, it must be addressed, it must be changed. The commission may also make reductions in force to bring the district's budget into balance, notwithstanding any provision to the contrary in a collective bargaining agreement. And I get this question quite often, is to what extent can a commission invade the collective bargaining agreement? And this is the only situation where a commission may do this. And they can do this, in other words, they can make reductions in force. They can authorize the Board of Ed to make reductions in force for financial reasons. It's that simple, financial reasons. And some contracts, for example, have in there that you have to maintain a set number of teachers or other employees, or that you have to have a certain number of student-teacher ratios, those sort of things. Youngstown City, for example, when they went into emergency, they had a clause where they had to maintain 740 teachers. Well, that was all well and good when the district had 15,000 students. But when they dropped down to 9,000 students, it was a real problem. And so that the commission was able to use this clause to go in and make reductions in force that the district needed to do for financial reasons. When making those reductions, the Commission always looks at non-teaching employees, administrative and non-teaching employees first before teaching members. Again, I think that all of us realize the good work that goes on in school districts, and most of that is in with the teachers, with the students is the most important. At least as a 30-year veteran, I always felt that way. Commission may also remove the superintendent or treasurer for failing to comply with the Commission's orders concerning the preparation or implementation of the financial recovery plan. Now, has that ever happened? No, it has not. Have we come close? Yes, we have. We've had to direct the Attorney General's office to direct some letters to several individuals reminding them, that if they did not comply with the Commission and their request for some financial information, that they could end up losing their contract. Now, that's a little bit about the Commission itself. The financial recovery plan that they have to create will tell everybody what the actions are and when they're going to be taken to restore the fiscal integrity of the school district. And it talks about fiscal management control. Again, that is where they will detail that every expenditure over $5,000, every purchase order, and every personnel move that the Board of Ed does has to come before the Commission. They can set target dates for implementation of action plans. In other words, we're in the middle of a school year right now. We understand that a lot of reductions cannot happen in the middle of a school year because of the way you're already set up. Some reductions can happen, and many districts have made those reductions over the course of your semester break, for example, whenever a school district feels comfortable making those particular reductions. You can do target dates. In other words, you can do some non-teaching employees now, but over the course of next summer, from one school year to the next is when a lot of those reductions are made. Anything having to do with debt obligations, issuing bonds, issuing solvency assistance, and the plan must be approved by the state superintendent or the superintendent of public instruction and cannot be implemented until it is approved. Finally, this brings us to the Solvency Assistance Fund. This is currently, and I say that because the new House Bill 153, the new budget, impacts this a little bit. Currently is a 2-year interest-free advance of the district state foundation money. You may recall when Dean was going through his PowerPoint there on the financial analysis about the foundation monies. I believe it's about $4.3 million your district is receiving. And that money then would be used to pay back any solvency assistance advance that the district would receive over the course of 2 years. So if the district had to be advanced $2 million, that means $1 million each of the next 2 years less that the district is going to receive. So if we think about that for a minute, if the district is showing a deficit of $2 million, most likely the Commission will direct them to find reductions or new money equal to $3 million. $2 million for the deficit plus $1 million less money you're going to be receiving next year. And the repayments would start the following fiscal year. What I leave out all yet. It does take state controlling board approval, which in order to get this, I have the application. I prepare that on behalf of the district. It takes a Board of Education resolution requesting it. It takes the Auditor of State's declaration of fiscal emergency, and is based on the Auditor of State's certification of their deficit. So the Auditor of State will be coming in and certifying a deficit. And whatever that deficit number is the number then that I would go to the controlling board to get money for their district in order to meet all their financial obligations for the current year. And then the repayment of that will start over the next year and will go for the next 2 fiscal years. Okay, a few quick questions. Can a district end up in emergency without a deficit? Yes, especially if we're unable to submit an acceptable recovery plan. The average length of time between fiscal caution and emergency, it varies. Some districts never go into fiscal emergency once they're declared in fiscal caution. Others go in very quickly. We've had some districts in similar situations that have gone in very quickly because circumstances required it. What can a district do to prevent emergency? Basically, the simple thing here is increase your revenue, decrease your expenditures, because that's all it's based on. So that's all a district can do. Can an excellent or effective rated district be declared in fiscal emergency? Yes, because they're completely separate. And the average length of time that a district remains in fiscal emergency is approximately 4 years. And again, if you get your solvency assistance, you get 2 years of advances that you're paying that back. And usually the third year you're starting to show some positive numbers, and by the fourth year you're able to be released from fiscal emergency. That's the way it is in most school districts that we work with. Okay, that's it for the slideshow. What I want to do is just again remind you that the district is now in fiscal caution, or will be the 1st of October. That means what? That means teachers are taking notes, right? It means they have 60 days to submit to us an acceptable recovery plan. Now, if they request an extension of 30 days, we can grant that to them. So let's look at the calendar for a minute. October 1st, put them up to December 1st, January 1st, if they get a 30-day extension. Then I have 30 days to review it or to work with the district and clarify it or make some additions to it before we either have to accept it or reject it. So that puts us into January. In January, let's assume that we find it unacceptable. I would then get on my computer, get out my form letters, fill it in, send it to the Auditor of State's office and request that the district be placed in Fiscal Watch. In Fiscal Watch, again, you have 60 days to complete an acceptable recovery plan. And the chances are, if you couldn't do it for Fiscal Caution, you probably are not going to be able to do it for Fiscal Watch. But it does give you some time. And again, another 120 days in essence you have from January. So that puts us up now to middle or to the end of May. Now that's important right now because there's a possibility of having a levy in May which could prevent fiscal emergency, if that's what it comes down to. If you can't find enough of the reductions to do, if you can't find the reductions, then you have to increase your revenue. And that's, at this point, about one of the only ways you can stay out of fiscal emergency, especially with the deficits being as large as they are. So the question now comes down as to what extent can we find reductions, or can we find a recovery plan for Fiscal Caution or Fiscal Watch that is acceptable, and we'll do the job for you.